Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be swapping out the risers and handlebar on the ST build. As I mentioned before, the bike did come with 6.5 pullbacks. I'm going to be actually going with a 9.5 pullback from Thrashin Supply, along with some medium bend bars from Arlen Ness. I think you guys might be excited about which bars I chose. I'll actually go over the details here in a second. I'm actually also swapping out and doing a gauge relocation with the Dakota Digital Gauge. I felt that with this particular build, I wanted to have something a little bit more nicer from a gauge standpoint. And what I've read online, the Lowrider S and the Lowrider ST share the same wiring harness. So hopefully it's just plug and play. I got that from Gorilla Cables. Jose over there is really knowledgeable. I've been talking with him for the last couple weeks just to make sure, because I got some different mixed feedback on that particular setup. So hoping that everything is just plug and play and I won't have any issues. I do know that there might be a security light that's constantly on just because it's a CAN bus system, and this particular model, the ST, I guess they ran some different configuration, and my understanding is that the security light feature is on, so hopefully the traction control still works as OEM, and the cruise control. Those are the other two items I want to make sure that works. So having said that, my buddy's got a 23 ST as well. He's running the Dakota Digital MLX 3012 is the model number for this particular bike, and he doesn't have any issues except for the security lights. So we'll go over that as well. And then I got some solid mount bushings, just running a higher riser. You definitely want to make sure that there's no feedback in the bars, and I feel that the solid bushings, you get the best of both worlds. Is more control on the bike up front. You got positive feedback all the time since it's solid mount, and there's no play in it. So we'll be putting those on. There's a couple other items. I'll review that with you here in a few moments. We'll go over all the kits, and then we'll start tearing the handlebars off this bike and getting them swapped out. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a second. All right, guys. So here's basically the whole setup that I purchased for the upgrade for the 9.5 pullback risers and handlebars and all the other accessories that I figured I'd need to complete the setup. So we'll start off with the risers. So we're going with the OG Thrashin 9.5 pullbacks. I'm running 8-inch on my old bike with 1-inch spacers, so it's giving me a total height of 9 inches. I haven't run pullbacks before, but from what I hear on these particular bikes, it brings the handlebars a little bit closer to you. So I'm kind of interested to see how the configuration is going to work on that. So I'm excited about that. But these are the OG handlebars, or excuse me, handlebar risers. They do come with the gauge relocation kit drilled out already, so I purchased that for the gauge relocation, since we're not going to be running the OEM style as I have on my Street Bob. So 9.5 pullbacks, and then these bars I'm super excited about. So as I talked a little bit about in my previous video, so these are the Arlen Ness. They're considered a medium pullback. They are stainless steel with TIG welded. I chose these because I wanted to switch it up and go from a black to something a little bit more traditional, right? And kind of off the beaten path. I haven't seen a lot of guys run these bars, but I figured because the contrast of the bike is going to be white with gold highlights, and I figured that these bars have some gold in them just from the welding. So I think there's going to be a nice finishing touch on that. So I'm excited to get these up on the bike. Moving towards the cable kit, so I chose to go with cable kits on the extensions for the turn signal harness, the speedo, but obviously we're running a different speedo. I'll touch on that in a second. So it includes all the extensions needed for the harness that you'll need to lift up the risers. It also does come with the flange, which is the 90-degree bend, because some of the old kits that I've seen, you have to actually purchase a different type of connection in here, but this is already pre-built for the ABS, so it comes with the brake line. And then it also comes with the clutch cable, which is pretty nice, 38-inch clutch cable, so it complements the additional rising that you need on that. So I'm excited about that. Everything came together, so there's no extra parts needed. So if you're wanting just to do the stock gauge with, you know, a riser that offers a OEM digital gauge on it, all you need to do is purchase the cable kits, and I'll provide a link on the description as well so you guys can have access to that. That includes everything. So I know some of the folks, you know, in the last couple of years they had to piece everything together, but cable kits came with basically a full kit that included everything. Dakota Digital, so I went with the MLX 3012K. So this is a 3 3/8 gauge. So I was going back and forth with Dakota, a couple other guys. It's basically a traditional 4-inch gauge, so it's going to fit in your OEM Lowrider S model gauge from the factory. It shouldn't be a problem to fit in there. And then I went with the Thrashin carbon fiber gauge relocation. So I was kind of worried that it wouldn't fit, but doing a little research, everything actually went together super good. So I'm excited about that. It fits nicely in here. The Thrashin gauge relocation is really nice. Comes with a grommet. I did need to change the screws because they weren't long enough, because obviously the Dakota gauge is not in reality meant for the ST, but you can make it work. So I had to add a plastic bushing between the gauge and the cup holder on the back end, just to make sure that I'm not pinching this, and then run a 1/2-inch screws, longer screws on that. So that came out good. And then the Gorilla cable for the speedo. So again, this is a 25-inch cable per Jose from Gorilla Cables. He mentioned go with the 25-inch. So that's going to complement the 9.5 pullbacks. So I shouldn't have any problems with that guy. So I'm really excited about that. And then the other thing you'll need is the gasket, which is the factory gasket from Harley Davidson. It basically sandwiches between the cup and the gauge flange here. So basically when you connect all this, there's no way for water to intrude in there. And then I put some silicone on the back of these screws just to make sure it's all watertight. I don't think it's necessary, but just to make sure, I put a little bead of silicone, so when I screw the screws in, everything's tight as well. I'll leave a description again for the gasket. You'll need one of those. I think it's like 12 bucks from Harley. And then the gauge relocation, this is going to go on the back side of the riser, so that will allow for the gauge to be properly placed up front as like a heads-up display. So Thrashin makes this. They also make one that actually is on the front side of the bar, so you can choose from front side. This one's on the back side, which I think it looks a little bit nicer. And then to finish off some of the things, just to clean up the handlebars and the controls, I went with the brake reservoir lids on both the top and the bottom, just to get that out of the way. Solid bushings, as I mentioned, running the solid bushings, really happy with those. And then we went with the Thrashin Supply double cut all black perch clamps. You'll need some 1/2-inch by 13s. I went with a 2 1/4 or 2 1/2 bolt. Thrashin Supply does not include that, so you can just pick these up at your Ace Hardware store. And then we also got some drag specialties black pivot points, so we're going to black all that out, get rid of the chrome pivot pins, and make sure everything looks nice. I don't know if I mentioned, but went with the ODI Vans. I'm running these on my other bike as well. Really happy with them. Nice super grip. I like them because they squeeze on opposed to gluing them on. So there's a tension screws here so you can adjust it. So I really like the way they did these. Haven't had any problems with my other ones. Really happy with them. This cable is for the LP6 that I'm going to go with. So I might today provision this since I'm going to have the gas tank off. I might just put this in place. I'm still waiting on the bracket from prior performance, but I went with the Gorilla because this is the one I'm using on my other bike. I'm really happy with it. Really good quality. They do exceptional work, so no problem with that. So I might prevision this just to make sure that it's, you know, in there and I can just get it up and running when I get all the stuff in. So yeah, that concludes the parts list for the riser setup that I'll be running. I think I got everything, hopefully. If not, the bike's going to be down for a few days anyways because I got a couple of other things going on. But yeah, we'll dive into it here in a second and start tearing it apart. So first things first, we got to remove the tank. And it's pretty straightforward. 2 bolts. There's a 9/16 bolt here and then one up front. I've already pulled those off. And then there's a quick disconnect for the fuel. Drain. So it's pretty straightforward. Basically this silver thing, you're going to want to press up on it, and if it hasn't been removed before, I might have to get like a screwdriver to wedge it here, or maybe some pliers and grab it. But basically you press up and then pull down on the, there we go. So that came off. And then there is a disconnect for the sensor underneath the tank that needs to come off, along with the vent cable. That's right here. So we'll pull that off. Sometimes it's easier with 2 people, but all right, sorry, I had to wedge a piece of wood underneath the tank to get this off. But basically the connector for the sensor right under here towards the front of the bike. Pull that off, and then this should just come right off here. Let's just make sure. Yep, just like that. We'll set this aside over here. Put the tank cover on it. Make sure it doesn't get damaged. So once the tank's off, you have access to basically the backbone of the frame, which exposes everything, because you're going to want to get to this plastic or rubber garment here. That's where your harness connection is for the OEM. That's where you're going to tie in all your extensions. So it just makes it easier. You can do it without removing the tank, but I feel that it's a little bit easier just to gain access to everything. That way you don't have the risk of damaging the tank at all, and you got more freedom here to do what you need to do. So this grommet just pulls out. I'm gonna quickly show you guys how to run the additional harness for an LP4 or LP6. It's going to be similar between the harnesses that you purchase online to run through the backbone. This one, as mentioned, this is for the LP6, the Gorilla cable. I'm going to pre-vision this just to have it in place since I already have the tank off. But what you'll do is run like a hanger or some kind of pull-through wire through the backbone from the front of where the grommet is all the way to the back, and just tie it, tape it through, and then you're just going to feed it between the existing OEM harness. There's actually a plate cover that you take off here. You take the plate cover off, and then this axis tray drops down, so you want to make sure that that's pulled down as well. And then you're just going to feed the wiring harness through this opening here gently. It is a tight fit, so just kind of be patient with it. And then depends, sometimes it gets hung up on these OEM wiring stuff in here, so you just got to kind of work around that stuff, right? This is not moving like it was supposed to. All right. So pull that through. So that's kind of it. That one actually went through pretty good, better than my other one. So yeah, I'll just button this up here, get it in place, so when I'm ready to hook up the light, everything will be just kind of plug and play. We'll go from there. So I got the OEM bars off, everything's cleaned up. I'm ready to install the OEM controls along with the wire and the throttle by wire through the new bars. I typically just take like a 14 or 16 gauge wire and I run it back here, tape it around, and I feed it through to pull through. The right side's a little bit harder because it has the throttle by wire and the control wire is going through, so it's a little bit bulky. The left side, you can actually feed it through without having to use any kind of pull through mechanism. So we'll pull this through here real quick. And you want to kind of feed it through, right? So not pulling on the wires completely, because last thing you want is for the OEM wires to have any damage to them. And obviously the throttle by wire, you have a keyed slot on the bars. You'll just line that up. All right, so those are pulled through. Now we'll do the left side. See, this one goes right through. There's no issues with having to run a feed line through it. Get a pick because causing more work than needed. All right, so that went through. I got a grommet missing here. Let's see, it's right here. I typically, not typically, but the last handlebar I ran, I just cut this because I don't use heated grips, but I'll leave it on here. All right, so here are the other turn signal wires. So basically put the solid bushings on the trees, connected the risers with the 1.5 inch bolt, ran the wires plug and play, got the bars on. Now I'm just doing the gauge relocation. So we're just getting this situated just to make sure everything's aligned correctly. Probably put some blue Loctite on that. Just get it out of the way. The nice thing I like about this gauge relocation, it's adjustable, pretty adjustable. That way you can make sure that you have it where you want it. I think that's going to be the spot there. I'm just finishing up on the loom here to get this all nice. I plugged in the wiring to the existing harness just to make sure that we got power and everything's working. So let's try that first. Oh, need to plug in the fuse. All right, so it looks like we got power. Let's see, indicator here. Right's working, left's working. Beam, let's just crank it over real quick. All right, so that's functioning right. So we still do need to program the gauge, and that's done through the app. I'm not going to do that now. I'll probably save that for later, but it looks like I got lights on, I got information, so I think we're solid on that. And then we'll go through the app and get everything configured once I button everything up. So I was able to get everything wrapped up today. It took a little bit longer than expected. I know I cut through a couple of the steps, and I apologize about that. It was just really hot in the garage today, and I wanted to go through this and try to get this done as soon as possible because I got a lot of things to do here in the next week. But anyways, got the risers in, got everything buttoned up, got the handlebars, got the controls, got the clutch cable, and also the brake line added. I did add my old cross thread 2-finger clutch and brake levers, so I had those as spares, so that worked out nice. Yeah, overall the setup I definitely like. It's you know, tall, which I definitely like as well. My arms are a little bit higher than my shoulder, which is okay when I'm sitting on the seat, but I feel good on it. Just sitting here, obviously I need to take a ride and get everything dialed in, maybe adjust the gauge itself, but overall really impressed with the way everything turned out. I definitely like the Dakota gauge. It's, you know, sleek. Everything is done through the app for setting it up, other than a couple minor adjustments like the clock. But yeah, super excited about it. I'll be switching out some of the bolts for gold, so maybe on the next video you'll have a different color variants throughout the top end, because I just want to keep a white and gold theme on this bike. But yeah, super excited with the overall turnout. The welds on the bars I definitely love. Definitely exposes it's a little bit different. I think once I get the HPI exhaust, that's going to complement some of the TIG welding from the bar to the pipes. Yeah, overall very impressed with it. Again, 9.5 pullbacks, medium bend bars from Arlen Ness. These are the stainless with TIG weld on them. Yeah, everything went together good. The clutch lever, I need to actually email cable kits because I think the 38-inch cable is too long for this particular setup. I would feel comfortable running like a 35 or 36 inch, so a couple inches shorter, because when I turn the handlebars, the cable does rub against the gauge cluster on the back. So that's something to be cautious of if you do run their kits. I think 38 is definitely a little bit longer for the 9.5s, but that's what they recommend. So I'm not sure if that's what people are just used to, or maybe go a little bit shorter. So I'll get that swapped out, email them. They're pretty good on customer service. Everything else is functioning correctly. You got the Dakota displayed. You know, you can cycle through here. You got trip. You do have to preset the odometer, which it doesn't actually read from the ECM, which is interesting because my Cosa does, but this one you actually have to preset. So I had to add that in there. 2106 for mileage, put some miles on it.